They were the bright-eyed kids who stole our hearts, child stars who once lit up our screens with pure magic. We laughed with them, cried with them, and watched them grow up in front of the camera. But behind the fame was a different story, one filled with pressure, pain, and the unforgiving lens of Hollywood. In this video, we're diving into the dramatic transformations of child celebrities whose appearances have changed so drastically you might not even recognize them today. Whether shaped by the weight of fame, personal battles, or life's unexpected turns, their faces now tell a very different story. Let's take a look back and ask, what really happened to these once familiar stars? Lindsay Lohan didn't just star in The Parent Trap, she stole America's heart. At just 12 years old, playing two roles as long-lost twin sisters in the 1998 remake, she left audiences stunned by her talent, grace, and that unforgettable freckled charm. With her fiery red hair, sparkling eyes, and magnetic presence, Lindsay wasn't just a child actress, she was a phenomenon. For many baby boomers, watching her felt like witnessing the rebirth of Hayley Mills for a new era. By the time Mean Girls hit theaters in 2004, Lindsay seemed unstoppable. She had the comic timing, the star power, and a natural glow that made her Hollywood's golden girl. But fame has a way of turning blessings into burdens. As she entered her late teens, the spotlight turned harsh. Instead of celebrating new roles, headlines focused on DUI arrests, courtrooms, rehab centers, and a family life unraveling in public view. The pressures of child stardom and the temptations of the Hollywood fast lane began to show, not just in her public image, but in her appearance. The vibrant girl with the sun-kissed freckles slowly seemed to vanish. Her face changed, her freckles faded, her lips appeared fuller, and her skin took on an artificial smoothness. Rumors of Botox, fillers, and cosmetic procedures swirled. While Lindsay has never confirmed going under the knife, the difference between her fresh-faced youth and the sculpted woman we see today is undeniable. Now, nearly 40, Lindsay is working toward a second act. She stepped back into the acting world, launched business ventures, and appears to be chasing something she hasn't had in years: peace. Her journey has been messy, painful, and deeply human. But through all the ups and downs, one thing remains. People still root for her. Not just because of childhood nostalgia, but because her story is one of survival. For those who watched her rise, fall, and now rebuild, Lindsay Lohan is more than a cautionary tale. She's a symbol of resilience and perhaps redemption. Britney Spears didn't just arrive. She exploded into the pop world in the late 1990s, instantly capturing a generation's attention with her debut anthem, Baby One More Time. With golden blonde hair, an infectious schoolgirl charm, and a smile that lit up every stage, Britney quickly became the face of teen pop. For baby boomers watching their kids and grandkids sing along, she was more than just catchy tunes. She was the symbol of a new cultural wave, fresh, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. She stood tall among legends, drawing comparisons to early Madonna or Debbie Gibson, but Britney was uniquely her own phenomenon. Yet, behind the glittering lights and chart-topping success, a storm was quietly brewing. As the years passed, the same spotlight that once crowned her queen began to burn. The paparazzi hounded her every move. The media dissected her life with cruel precision. By the mid-2000s, Britney's world unraveled in front of millions. Her breakdown was raw, public, and painful. The perfectly crafted image shattered, her iconic hair shaved in a moment of anguish, her makeup smudged, her gaze distant, her spirit visibly dimmed. For older generations who'd witnessed stars fall from grace before, watching Britney collapse under the crushing weight of fame was heartbreaking. But her story didn't end there. After breaking free from a grueling 13-year conservatorship in 2021, Britney re-emerged, not as the polished pop princess of yesteryear, but as a woman unfiltered and unafraid. No glam squads. No choreography. Just Britney. She now posts makeup-free selfies, dances barefoot in her home, and reclaims her voice in her own quirky, unedited way. Some still fixate on how much she's changed, but many see something far more powerful: a survivor. A woman choosing authenticity over illusion. For baby boomers, Britney's journey may hit differently, not just as a cautionary tale of fame, but as a profound lesson in resilience. Her transformation is more than skin deep. It's a portrait of a woman who was nearly broken by a world obsessed with perfection, only to rise again by embracing her imperfections. Britney Spears reminds us all, healing isn't always pretty, but it is real. And in that rawness lies her greatest power. Aaron Carter exploded onto the pop scene in the late 90s like a firework, bright, fast, and impossible to ignore. With his infectious hit, I Want Candy, boyish grin, and boundless energy, he became a teen idol almost overnight. As the younger brother of Backstreet Boys' Nick Carter, Aaron seemed destined to ride the wave of the boy band era, charming kids and grandkids alike in homes across America. He was the golden boy, wide-eyed, full of life, and everywhere from Nickelodeon specials to platinum album covers to touring alongside Britney Spears. By the time he was barely a teenager, he was already a household name. But fame, especially at that age, is a heavy crown to wear. Behind the stage lights and screaming fans, Aaron was quietly unraveling. As he moved into adulthood, the price of early stardom began to reveal itself. Addiction, mental health battles, and legal troubles slowly replaced his name on music charts with headlines in tabloids. For those who remembered the sweet, dancing kid with the catchy tunes, watching his fall from grace felt like witnessing a slow-motion heartbreak. Aaron didn't hide from the truth. He spoke openly in interviews about his trauma, the painful fractures within his family, and the financial hardships that haunted him. By his 30s, his appearance bore the marks of those battles. The sparkle in his eyes had dimmed. His once vibrant frame was now thin and fragile. He tried to reclaim his place in the spotlight through reality TV, new music, and social media, but the shadows of his past were never far behind. In November 2022, Aaron Carter died at just 34 years old. The news sent shockwaves through fans who had grown up with him, and for older generations who had seen it all before, his story became yet another reminder of how unforgiving fame can be, especially when it comes too soon, too fast. Aaron's life was filled with both light and darkness. But despite the tragedy, he's still remembered for the joy he once brought, the memories he gave a generation of young fans, and the cautionary tale he leaves behind. A reminder that even the brightest stars can burn out far too soon. Johnny Depp's entrance into Hollywood wasn't just a debut, it was a spark that lit a fire. At 21, he appeared in A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, but it wasn't until 21 Jump Street in the late 80s that he truly captured America's attention. With those chiseled cheekbones, intense eyes, and effortless cool, Depp didn't just play a cop undercover in high school. He became a heartthrob for a new generation. For baby boomers watching their daughters pin posters of him on their bedroom walls, Depp was the face of a new kind of leading man, rebellious, mysterious, and magnetic without even trying. But Johnny never played by Hollywood's rules. Instead of chasing blockbusters, he chased the bizarre and beautiful. From the pale, gentle hands of Edward Scissorhands to the rum-soaked swagger of Jack Sparrow, Depp brought life to characters that defied convention, each one a mirror to his offbeat soul. His fashion followed suit, bohemian, layered, wild, and often disheveled. He wasn't interested in being polished, he wanted to be real. As time passed, the pretty boy look faded, replaced by the rugged wear of a man who'd lived hard and felt deeply. The glow of youth gave way to a grizzled beard, weathered skin, and eyes that had clearly seen too much. Then came the headlines, more about courtrooms than characters. His bitter split from Amber Heard played out in public like a tragic drama, and the weight of it showed. He appeared gaunt, tired, worn down. The man once idolized for his looks was now a symbol of emotional exhaustion, scarred by battles far from the silver screen. For those who watched him rise from dreamy newcomer to haunted veteran, Depp's transformation is both captivating and heartbreaking. It's a reminder that fame doesn't shield you from pain. In fact, it often magnifies it. And yet, through it all, Johnny Depp remains flawed, fascinating, and fiercely beloved. Whether remembered as the leather-jacketed rebel of the 80s or the eccentric pirate who redefined adventure films, his story endures as one of Hollywood's most unforgettable evolutions, a tale of talent, turmoil, and the heavy price of living in the spotlight. Robert Downey Jr., the rise, the ruin, the redemption. Long before he suited up as the genius billionaire Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. was already a familiar face to a generation of baby boomers. They watched him go from a magnetic young actor with natural charm to a tragic cautionary tale, and ultimately, a living, breathing symbol of redemption. In the 80s and early 90s, Downey dazzled Hollywood with performances that felt effortless. Whether in Less Than Zero or Chaplin, which earned him a coveted Oscar nomination, he was hailed as a once-in-a-generation talent, drawing comparisons to the likes of James Dean and Marlon Brando. He had the looks, the range, the charisma. Stardom wasn't just in his future, it seemed guaranteed. But behind the scenes, fame had its cost. By the time he hit his 30s, Downey's world was crumbling under the weight of addiction. Drugs, arrests, and rehab became a brutal cycle. Headlines shifted from movie premieres to mugshots. The boyish sparkle faded. The sharp jawline and confident eyes gave way to a haunted, worn-down shell of the man fans once adored. To see him then, frail, disheveled, and lost, was heartbreaking for those who remembered the promise he once held. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Downey hit rock bottom. He was in and out of jail, blacklisted by studios, and widely believed to be beyond saving. Hollywood had all but closed the door. But then came the twist no one expected, one even Hollywood couldn't script better. With the steadfast love of his wife Susan, a deep commitment to sobriety, and a fighting spirit that refused to quit, Downey began the long climb back. In 2008, his casting as Iron Man was considered a risky move. But when he stepped into that suit, something clicked. He didn't just play Tony Stark, he became him. That one role reignited his career, transformed his image, and placed him back on top as one of the highest paid and most respected actors in the world. Now in his late 50s, Robert Downey Jr. is the picture of resilience, healthier, wiser, and more grounded than ever before. His transformation isn't just skin deep. It's emotional, spiritual, and profoundly human. For those who watched him fall, his comeback is more than inspiring, it's unforgettable. Robert Downey Jr. didn't just rebuild a career. He reclaimed his life. And in doing so, he proved that no matter how far someone falls, with love, perseverance, and a second chance, redemption is always within reach. Judy Garland, born Frances Ethel Gum in 1922, wasn't just a star, she was a phenomenon, a beacon of magic and melancholy whose light still flickers through the decades. For baby boomers and their parents, she'll forever be the wide-eyed girl who sang "Over the Rainbow" and made us all believe that dreams really could come true. At just 16, she became Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, a role that etched her into the bedrock of Hollywood's golden age. With a voice that could move mountains and eyes that revealed every aching emotion, Judy didn't just act, she lived her roles. She wasn't simply beloved, she was sacred. But behind the glittering spotlight was a haunting reality. Judy's life was never truly her own. From the moment MGM took her under its wing, she was molded, controlled, and commodified. Executives monitored her weight, dictated her appearance, and even regulated when she slept. To keep her working, they fed her amphetamines by day and barbiturates by night, habits forced upon her before she was old enough to vote. These pills would haunt her for the rest of her life. As the years wore on, the price of fame grew heavier. Failed marriages, public breakdowns, and financial ruin became part of her story. The once sparkling girl America adored began to flicker under the weight of exhaustion and addiction. Still, even when her voice cracked or her body trembled, there was something transcendent about Judy. When she stood on stage, bare, broken, but still brilliant, audiences didn't just see a legend, they saw a survivor. Her death in 1969, from an accidental overdose at only 47, was more than a tragedy, it was a heartbreak shared by generations. Judy Garland lived a life of extremes, glorious highs, soul-crushing lows, and a relentless pursuit of love, purpose, and peace. Her legacy is twofold: a voice that defined an era and a cautionary tale about the ruthless cost of stardom. Yet through it all, her spirit endures. Decades later, Judy still sings to us, reminding the world that even in the darkest moments, there's still a rainbow to be found. Edward Furlong lit up the screen in 1991, when, at just 13 years old, he stepped into the role of John Connor in Terminator 2, Judgment Day. With his piercing eyes, street-smart edge, and raw, magnetic presence, he didn't just play the future of humanity, he became the future of Hollywood. For baby boomers watching alongside their kids and grandkids, Furlong's breakout was electric. It felt like the dawn of a new kind of movie star, rebellious, relatable, and bursting with potential. But as we've seen time and time again, early fame can be a double-edged sword. As Edward grew up, the pressure of the spotlight and the demons lurking behind the scenes began to catch up with him. The charming teen idol who once graced magazine covers and red carpets slowly unraveled. Substance abuse, run-ins with the law, and a battle with personal identity replaced the promise of stardom. His face, once youthful and full of spark, became marked by weariness, dramatic weight changes, and a haunted look that left fans stunned. Though he tried to claw his way back with indie film roles and public declarations of change, the world watched more closely for his stumbles than his successes. Each attempted comeback was met not with applause, but with doubt. For those who once saw him as the next big thing, it was heartbreaking. Edward's story is one that boomers know all too well. A child star thrust too fast into an unforgiving industry, left to navigate adulthood with no compass. He's spoken of recovery, of healing, of starting over, but the path has been anything but easy. His transformation isn't just physical, it's a symbol of the harsh reality that fame doesn't fix brokenness. It can expose it. Today, Edward Furlong may never return to the heights he once reached, but his story remains powerful. A cautionary tale. A mirror. A reminder of how fragile childhood fame truly is. And for those who still remember that fearless young John Connor, it's a sobering glimpse into what happens when the promise of a bright future meets the weight of the real world. Orlando Brown. For many baby boomers, the name Orlando Brown brings back memories of the quick-witted, energetic Eddie Thomas from That's So Raven. In the early 2000s, he wasn't just a teen actor, he was a household name. With his electric charm and perfect comedic timing, he became a Disney favorite, lighting up screens alongside Raven-Symoné in a show that parents could trust and kids adored. At the height of his fame, Orlando looked like he had it all: a promising future, a devoted fan base, and a seat at Hollywood's next-generation table. But like too many child stars before him, Orlando's story didn't unfold as expected. As he moved from adolescence into adulthood, the cracks began to show. The fame that once lifted him up became a crushing weight. With no guidebook on how to grow up under constant scrutiny, Orlando spiraled. Substance abuse, public meltdowns, and run-ins with the law turned his name from headlines of success to tabloid tragedy. The bright-eyed teen we once knew slowly faded into someone almost unrecognizable, thin, disoriented, and clearly battling demons far deeper than the world could see. What made it worse was how publicly it all played out. Social media and gossip blogs didn't just report on his downfall, they devoured it. Instead of remembering the talent he once showed, the world fixated on his breakdowns. But even in the midst of chaos, Orlando has shown glimpses of fight. He's spoken candidly in interviews, admitting his struggles and expressing a real desire to heal. He often credits faith, fatherhood, and a renewed sense of purpose as his lifelines. He's fallen, yes, but not without trying to rise. Still, the road back is steep. And for those who've lived long enough to see other young stars rise and fall, Orlando's story cuts deep. It's a painful reminder of how quickly Hollywood embraces you, and how quickly it forgets you. Behind the smile, behind the jokes, was always a young man in need of help. Whether Orlando Brown finds lasting peace or not, his story stands as a stark lesson. Fame without guidance can destroy, and sometimes the brightest stars burn out too soon, not from lack of talent, but from lack of support. Tara Reid was once the golden girl of late 90s and early 2000s Hollywood, the bubbly blonde who lit up the screen and captured hearts as Vicky in American Pie. With her girl-next-door charm and radiant smile, she became the face of a new teen comedy era, starring in cult hits like Van Wilder and Josie and the Pussycats. For Gen Zers and baby boomers watching their kids laugh at these outrageous comedies, Tara was more than just a rising star. She was a symbol of carefree youth and fresh Hollywood energy. But fame, as it often does, came with a heavy price. As Tara's star power grew, so did the tabloid obsession. By the early 2000s, headlines were no longer about her next movie. They were about wild nights, A-list parties, and one unforgettable red carpet mishap that turned her into a punchline. The cameras that once adored her now dissected every inch of her appearance. Fans began to notice drastic weight loss, rumors of botched cosmetic procedures, and a look that no longer resembled the glowing starlet they once knew. Her once vibrant image faded, replaced by concern and curiosity. Was Hollywood too cruel? Or had the spotlight simply burned too hot? Still, Tara didn't disappear. She found a second life in the campy chaos of Sharknado, embraced indie roles, and even ventured into fashion with a swimwear line. Not everything stuck, but she kept moving forward. Now in her late 40s, Tara speaks with honesty about the highs and lows, the fame, the mistakes, the pain of being mocked, and her determination to reclaim her own narrative. Her story isn't just about a fall from grace. It's about the brutal cost of early fame, the unforgiving gaze of the public, and the quiet resilience of a woman still standing after the storm. Tara Reid may never return to her peak Hollywood days, but her journey is a cautionary tale and a testament to survival in a town that often forgets its own stars. Drew Barrymore's life in the spotlight has been anything but a fairy tale. For many baby boomers, she'll always be little Gertie from E.T. the Extraterrestrial, that wide-eyed 6-year-old with a smile so pure it could melt hearts. She lit up the screen with a natural charm that felt otherworldly, and it seemed like greatness was her destiny. And in many ways, it was. But behind those twinkling eyes was a little girl silently carrying the crushing weight of fame. By the time Drew hit her early teens, the dream had unraveled. Caught in Hollywood's whirlwind of excess, with no real guardrails to protect her, she spiraled into addiction, heartbreak, and chaos. Tabloids followed her every misstep, stints in rehab, emotional meltdowns, and a family history more toxic than tender. The darling of America had turned into a cautionary headline, and the sweet girl in the red hoodie was now a young woman hardened far too soon. But Drew didn't disappear. She fought. And in her 20s, she did what many thought impossible. She rewrote her story. With roles in The Wedding Singer, Never Been Kissed, and 50 First Dates, she embraced comedy, love, and vulnerability on screen. Behind the scenes, she launched Flower Films and proved she wasn't just a survivor, she was a powerhouse. Her glow may have shifted from innocent to earned, but it never faded. Now in her late 40s, Drew Barrymore is still evolving. As the host of The Drew Barrymore Show, she brings warmth, humor, and authenticity into living rooms across America. She's no longer just an actress, she's a mother, a producer, an entrepreneur, and a fierce advocate for mental health and redemption. Her face carries the beauty of every battle she's fought, every laugh she's shared, and every tear she's wiped away in silence. For those who grew up with her, Drew's journey is more than familiar. It's a testament to resilience. She reminds us all that transformation isn't just about bouncing back. It's about rising wiser, stronger, and unapologetically real. Jake Lloyd became an overnight sensation in 1999 when, at just 9 years old, he stepped into the galaxy far, far away as young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. For baby boomers who had followed the Star Wars saga since its birth in 1977, witnessing the origin of Darth Vader was monumental, and Jake was right at the center of it all. With his boyish charm and innocent eyes, he brought warmth and vulnerability to one of cinema's most iconic villains. But behind the lightsabers and red carpets, Jake's reality was anything but magical. Instead of admiration, he was met with brutal backlash. Critics didn't just tear apart his performance, they tore into him. The criticism was sharp, relentless, and devastatingly personal. For a child, it was unbearable. The media attention was suffocating. Classmates bullied him. Paparazzi hounded him. And so, just as quickly as he had entered the spotlight, Jake walked away from acting, shattered by a world that had once cheered for him. As the years passed, his story took a heartbreaking turn. Jake struggled silently with his mental health, eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. His name popped back into headlines, but not for movie roles. Legal troubles, hospital stays, and run-ins with the law painted a portrait of a life unraveling. Gone was the bright-eyed boy who once stood on the red carpet. In his place was a man visibly worn by the weight of fame, disheveled, withdrawn, and lost in the shadows of his past. For fans who once saw him as the face of a beloved franchise, his transformation was jarring. But for those who looked deeper, it was a painful reminder of just how cruel Hollywood can be, especially to its youngest stars. Jake's journey is a sobering reflection of fame's darker side. The part that doesn't glitter, that doesn't heal, and that sometimes never lets go. To the generation that watched Star Wars become legend, Jake Lloyd's story isn't just tragic, it's a cautionary tale. Because sometimes, the spotlight doesn't illuminate, it blinds. And when it fades, it can leave behind more than just a forgotten name. It can leave scars that never fully heal. Jodie Sweetin lit up television screens in the late 1980s as the spunky, sharp-tongued Stephanie Tanner on Full House, a sitcom that became a comforting staple for families across America. With her iconic catchphrase, "How rude," and magnetic charm, Jodie quickly captured hearts, especially among baby boomers watching with their children. She seemed destined for a lifelong spotlight, a child star who had it all: talent, charisma, and an irresistible spark of innocence. But when Full House ended in the mid-90s, the world she knew disappeared. Like so many young stars, Jodie struggled to adjust to life beyond the cameras. Gone was the structure, the daily routine, the adoring fan mail. In its place came a painful emptiness, one she tried to fill in the most dangerous of ways. Her teenage years unraveled into a long battle with substance abuse. Addiction took hold, leaving behind physical and emotional scars. Her glowing face, once full of youthful energy, bore the marks of years lost to pain and relapse. For fans who remembered the bright, sassy girl on TV, the transformation was heartbreaking. Jodie later opened up with raw honesty, revealing her struggles with meth, failed relationships, and the inner demons she kept hidden behind the spotlight's glow. But Jodie Sweetin didn't stay lost. She chose to fight. Now in her early 40s, she stands not just as a survivor, but as an inspiration. She's reclaimed her life, become a passionate voice for recovery and mental health, and returned to television in the Fuller House reboot, bridging generations of fans. She's written a powerful memoir, served as a recovery mentor, and shared her truth with bravery and grace. Her looks may have changed since her childhood fame, but what she's gained is far more meaningful. For anyone who grew up watching her, Jodie's story is a powerful reminder: real beauty isn't about staying perfect, it's about rising after the fall and owning every part of your journey. Thanks for watching Exposed Hollywood. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story that reveals the truth behind the fame.